Welcome back. Let's send it over to Amanda Zampano, who has some topics that are for grabs. Amanda.
The Puerto Rico versus Dominican Republic game is one of the reasons why people are paying more attention to the World Baseball Classic. The Dominican Republic suffered its first loss in the World Baseball Classic since 2009, losing 3-1 to Puerto Rico. Ryan, what does the impact of these interesting games have on the World Baseball Classic?
Well, I think the interest has generally just been a whole lot better than in years past, and that, the no-brainer answer is because the games are in America. You can fly down to Miami right now and see these games going on. We're seeing a lot more superstars this year than years past. Manny Machado's been a big player. But I think the most compelling reason to be invested in this is because of the teams without the stars. Look at Israel. Their slugger, quote unquote, had 9 career home runs. These guys are not professional baseball players, and yet they're going on a run. They're compelling, and they're really giving some of the other teams like the Dominican Republic a little bit of a fight, and it's brought people together and brought baseball to the masses in a way that the World Series just doesn't do. So I think it's a great thing for baseball, for the World Classic to become a whole lot more popular. Maybe this is the next big step in making baseball, relevant again.
Yeah, I would agree with you there, Ryan. I think the best part about this is not so much who even wins it or who's doing the best, who has the best players or whatnot. It's the exposure to the teams that don't ever really get any. It's the fact that you're watching these teams that you might not even know had a baseball team. Like you said, Israel slugger has 9 home runs. I didn't even know Israel had a baseball team. So the fact that that is, coming to fruition, we're talking about it, we're watching it, that's an awesome thing. Now, of course we have MLB here, and everybody knows that, and it's the best baseball in the world, or, arguably at least. You get to watch these teams who don't have as much talent or who have just as much talent you never really knew did. So I think that's a really good thing, and the best part of it is that, other countries who may not have as much or do not look at sports the way we do are able to look at these teams and be like, wow, we have something to show, especially when they come over here and prove that they can compete with some of the best baseball players in the world.
LeVar Ball, Lonzo Ball's father, is proud of his son's performance like most parents are. LeVar Ball's dad, though, is a little different. He thinks his son is really one of the greatest basketball players out there. LeVar has compared his son to Steph Curry, and in regards to the NBA draft said, quote, "If you want a winner, pick my boy," end quote. Zach, is LeVar Ball dad goals?
Dad goals, man, that's a millennial question right there. I don't think he's dad goals. I'm very iffy on this. I like certain things about him, and there's certain things I really don't. I like what he has done for his kids. He has 3 kids that are going to UCLA. That dad did those 3 kids and himself a gigantic favor. They're going to school for free at one of the best colleges in the country, and these 3 kids can all ball, no pun intended. They are fantastic players, and obviously they are in the spotlight. Even their youngest son, who's still in high school as a sophomore, he's getting a ton of recognition. What I don't like about him now is he's saying just things that are completely, I don't even have a word for it. They don't make any sense.
He's trolling. He's having fun with it.
He's having fun, but I don't know what good he's doing for his kids when he's saying these things. Like I said, he's done a heck of a lot of good for his kids. I'm not denying that. But when he's saying to Charles Barkley, who's an NBA legend and a big face in the NBA and basketball as a whole, to stay behind the TNT desk and keep eating his donuts, that's disrespectful. I see he's playing around, but there's a fine line. And when he's saying he's going to beat LeBron and stuff like that, is he joking? We don't know. I don't know. I like how his kids are handling it. That's a good thing. He's not dad goals, but the fact that he got his kids to where they are is impressive. I think he needs to keep his mouth shut, though.
LeVar Ball is dad goals. Every dad should be like that, have so much love for your son that you're just parading him around. That is the kind of father that we should all aspire to be. And Charles Barkley is a big face. Yeah, because he's so fat, eating all those donuts. LeVar Ball, I am loving this. If he wants to go and troll and challenge guys to one-on-one, even though he's challenging the greatest basketball player in the world that we've ever seen when he scored 2 points a game at Washington, he's not serious. No one can just listen to him talk for like 2 seconds. LeVar Ball is just having fun with it. I am for it. In the Barstool Sports dad bracket, he is matched up against God, the Heavenly Father, and I'm taking LeVar.
Cornerback for the New Orleans Saints, Malcolm Butler, is a restricted free agent, but there have been trade rumors about him. The New England Patriots placed a first-round tender on him. If a trade happens, the Saints would likely send back the first-round pick they received in the Cooks trade. Ryan, do you think a Butler trade will end up happening?
I do think it will happen because New England has two choices here. Either pay a disgruntled star, which they've never done, or let Butler walk for a compensation pick, which they don't want. The Saints and Patriots have traded about 9 times in the Sean Payton era. I think Bill Belichick finally pays off for the Saints.
Yeah, I don't. This is not a trade or not a move I see Belichick keeping. I think this is one of the things where Belichick lets the players walk. We've seen this with they're probably going to let LeGarrette Blount walk. The Patriots are all about bringing in new guys, refreshing their team. And does it work? You better believe it. They've been the best team in the NFL for how many years? So I think they let Butler go, and I think it's a big get for the Saints.
After the break, oh, how sweet it is. The Sweet 16 is set. We'll give you our thoughts on the madness.
We appreciate you sticking around. Brackets have been busted. Amanda, why should I still keep watching the March Madness?
Well, you should still be watching because it's now the Sweet 16 in the NCAA tournament, and they call this March Madness for a reason. High seeds have been upset, and some players have surprised us. Ryan, before we break down some of the tournament, what are your general thoughts so far?
I think it's disappointing that we haven't seen a Cinderella story. And you look at Northwestern with, Julia Louis-Dreyfus and all the fanfare. They weren't really a good team. They didn't have a shot really at all. They should have lost in the first round because a player decided to foul when he had the lead. So that never really manifested itself. You look at kind of around those Sweet 16, the teams that are left. I mean, there's Florida, but they're a little bit hard to really convince yourself that they're going to actually do anything because I don't think a lot of people actually believe in Florida. And then UCLA, Kentucky, Gonzaga, these are all titans of college basketball. So it's always more fun to root for the little guy, but there's no little guys left.
What we need to be talking about is not what's happening on the court, but what's happening off the court. The tournament already is the most watched tournament in 24 years through only the first 2 rounds and has set a record in media consumption. Nearly 9.5 million viewers in television and 69 million live streams, both records. The tournament is projected to make over $900 million in pure revenue alone off of this tournament. That's 90% of the NCAA basketball profit the entire year. Guess how much the student athletes are getting paid out of that pot of nearly $1 billion? A big goose egg, $0.00. It's something that we need to be taking more seriously. These players are phenomenal athletes. They're superstars, and we are treating them like second-class citizens. They need to get their pay. Whether you choose to believe it or not, NCAA sports are becoming professional sports, and they need to be compensated for their play, especially when you look at these numbers. It's inexcusable.
There's been some incredible talent seen in the tournament so far. Lonzo Ball had 18 points for the UCLA Bruins, helping defeat the Cincinnati Bearcats. Frank Mason III also added 20 points for Kansas to aid in the victory over Michigan State. Zach, who is one of the best players you've seen so far in the tournament?
It's got to be Lonzo Ball. He had 9 assists in the second half against Cincinnati, and that was a game UCLA, they were not dominant the entire time. They finally pulled away towards the end. That was a lot to do with the fact of the play of Lonzo Ball. He finished with 18 in that game and 9 assists, nearly a double-double in the game. Prior to that, he had 15 points. And this is all coming not only as a freshman, but with all the media criticism surrounding him, especially with his dad, as we already talked about previously in the show. That has brought a lot on him. His dad is saying that he deserves a shoe deal, that he can beat LeBron, yada, yada, yada. He's got to go out and prove all of these things, or at least show that he is valuable enough to be a great player in the NBA, and he's doing that. I think a big thing for him is having to prove this against Kentucky this week. Kentucky, like Ryan mentioned, is a titan in NCAA basketball. If UCLA is able to get past them, not only does it prove UCLA being one of the top dogs in the tournament right now, but Lonzo Ball as well. You got to remember he's a freshman and he's playing like he's a senior, and he's been handling himself in the media fantastically. He's going to make a great NBA player, and he's already playing fantastically in the NCAA tournament and the NCAA as a whole.
I wouldn't make the argument that he's been the best player so far, but I think down the stretch, I think he's going to become that. And I'm talking about Lauri Markkanen in Arizona, 7-foot shooter, and take away all those caveats about him being the best big man shooter or best shooter over 6'9". He is the best shooter left in the tournament, and with that size, teams aren't going to be able to contend with that. I think if Arizona wants to go on a run here, they need to get him more involved behind the three-point line. They've tried to get him in the paint a little bit, exploit some of those matchups, but Markkanen can shoot the lights out. College basketball doesn't have a whole lot of players like this, and when you see a guy like that, there's not a whole lot. If you don't have a guy who can match up with him and guard him, it's going to be lights out if he gets it going, and I think he will.
It wouldn't be March Madness without some upsets. The UNC Tar Heels were close to being upset, but they were able to pull through. Villanova and Duke, though, were not as lucky. The #1 ranked Wildcats fell to the 8th-seeded Wisconsin Badgers 62-65. Duke lost 81-88 to South Carolina. Ryan, who was the biggest upset of this tournament?
It's Villanova, but not necessarily because it was such a tough loss, because Wisconsin's a great team, but it's not Duke, because if you really look at this team, what they were on paper, I mean, yes, they did win the ACC tournament. A lot of people thought that things were going to come together for them. Harry Giles was getting more healthy, but it just never materialized. Giles was supposed to be that rim protector. They did not have him down the stretch. It just never really came together for him. Luke Kennard fouling out. These are problems that Duke had all year if you have been watching. A lot of people peg Duke. They see them in the tournament and they say, oh, they're going to win it all, just because I don't want that to happen. But that's the trick of it. Duke was not a powerhouse this year. The fact that they got kicked out this early, I think this is where they probably were going to get knocked out. It's not Duke.
So you mean to tell me before the season started you were going to have Duke out in the second round?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Really? I think that it most certainly is Duke. If they win the ACC with a team such as Syracuse, Louisville, Clemson, the list goes on and on, winning that tournament alone is very, very promising. Going into the tournament and losing in the second round after proving that, very shocking, especially when your head coach is Hall of Famer Mike Krzyzewski and you lose in the second round. You're going to be the talk of the town, especially to a 7th seed in South Carolina. No one was really expecting them to do much, and they go out and beat Duke. Now they're in the Sweet 16. This leaves the East wide open. You got to remember, Duke won 13 out of their last 14 games of the season. They're coming in red hot, losing in the second round. They had a lot to prove. Christian Laettner was under the spotlight all year. They lost to Syracuse at that buzzer, and now they lined up losing in the second round. So I'm sure Syracuse and UNC fans are rejoicing, as well as Christian Laettner fans. Very shocked to see Duke lose in the second round.
Crazy tournament so far, but someone will end up taking home the hardware. Gonzaga, UNC, and Kansas are the #1 seeds that still remain that could end up winning the tournament. Teams like UCLA or Florida are also strong teams that could end up in the championship game. Zach, who do you think will win the tournament?
I mean, I don't have an exact winner for you, but I would put my money on a winner coming out of the South. It's either going to be UCLA or UNC. UCLA, as I mentioned earlier, takes on Kentucky this week. That's going to be a serious task. If they pull that off, my money's on them. Then we got North Carolina taking on Butler. Butler is always a tough team to play in the tournament. If both teams win, whoever wins that Elite Eight game is going to win the championship. I'm very interested to see who wins that one and then move on and see what they can do in the Final Four and the final game.
I like Kentucky simply because of 3 reasons, and that's, I almost said LeVar Ball. That's De'Aaron Fox, Malik Monk, and Bam Adebayo, and that's 3 players who can put the ball in the basket at any given time, and when you have 3 elite players like that, I've seen it happen before. It all comes together. No down to the wire tonight. We'd like to talk about something rather serious, and that's because of some troubling news regarding Dwight Clark. Made immortal by being the receiving end of the catch, the most sacred catch in the sport's history, delivered by Joe Montana over the Dallas defense in 1981 NFC Championship game. It was Clark who was the exclamation point to one of the greatest games ever played. Yesterday, Clark announced that he is battling ALS, better known as Lou Gehrig's disease. This heinous disease affects all motor neurons in the body. Your mind remains sharp, but the body around you slowly dies and becomes ineffective. But there is hope. Yesterday was also the birthday of Steve Gleason, another former NFL player also battling ALS. Through Gleason's foundation, he's provided hundreds of ALS patients with once-in-a-lifetime opportunities, as well as the care and technology needed to live with ALS. All of this while helping to find a cure. ALS is one of our most hideous diseases, and now it's got one of our dearly beloved family in its grasp. If you've been moved at all by this, consider donating to Gleason's foundation. No white flags. I donate. My family donates. And I promise that every cent counts. From all of us at OSU, we're thinking about you, Dwight. And that's going to do it for OSU tonight. I'm Ryan Berger, Zach Bell, Amanda Zampano, our producer, Sam Watkins, our director, Taylor Kazak. We thank you for tuning in.